the name of Jesus. There is power in the name of Jesus to break every chain, break every chain, break every chain. There's an army rising up. There's an army.
Whenever I mention or someone else mentions that I lived for 7 years in Korea, I think of that movie 7 Years in Tibet. Do you guys know that one? Yeah. It's a little old now. Somebody. Anyway, it was starring Brad Pitt, and it was about him living there. And so I didn't live 7 years in Tibet, but I lived 7 years in Korea, and it makes me feel a little like a movie star. Of course, that's kind of strange, but that's who I am. A little strange. Yeah, it's great to be back again, and I remember being last time I was here was last January. If you were here, I was here with my friend Thomas, and we were talking about reasons to believe that God exists. So that's not quite what I'm talking about tonight, but I think something you'll enjoy. For as long as the people of Japan have lived on their islands, especially as long as they've lived in the Tokyo area, Mount Fuji has soared over them. It's a beautiful, majestic mountain. And at the base of this mountain, there's a park called Aokigahara, also known as the Sea of Trees. Beautiful park. Fantastic view of Mount Fuji. But this park has one sad distinction. And that is, it's known as one of the suicide capitals of the world. In other parts of the world, when people want to kill themselves, they go to a high bridge or a waterfall or a cliff and they jump off it. But not in Japan. In Japan, when people want to take their own life, they go to a park. And at the entrance of this park, there is a sign that tries to discourage people from committing suicide. Basically says, think of your friends, think of your family. Nevertheless, the suicides continue, and every year they discover anywhere from like 30 to 100 bodies in this park. Japan has one of the highest suicide rates in the world, but it's certainly not alone. The World Health Organization says in the last half century or so, the rate of suicide in the world has gone up 60%. So that now about 1 million people a year take their lives. That works out to about 3,000 people a day. Think about that for a moment. Today, somewhere in the world, about 3,000 people have taken their lives. You can easily think of that as just a statistic. But imagine if all of those people were here today. Imagine if they were out in the halls here, if they were walking around outside. Imagine we could go out there and talk to them, hear their stories, hear why they want to end their lives, and know that today would be their last day here on earth. Ravi Zacharias is a Christian speaker who's from India, but then immigrated to Canada and now lives in the United States. And he goes around the world speaking and talking to people. He says that one time he was in Western Canada and he was talking to an audience, and there was a woman in that audience who was listening carefully, and afterwards she came up and wanted to talk to him. And of course he listened and was willing to talk to her, and she started pouring out her story to him. She talked about how her husband had once been a very respected medical doctor in that city, and how he had a great number of patients there, was well respected. One day she says she was alone at home, she was asleep, and he came in late. She woke up as a result, but this was part of his routine, so she didn't think much of it, went back to sleep. Suddenly in the kitchen there was this loud bang, She bolted up in bed and she knew something was wrong. When she went to the kitchen, she could see his body slumped over the table. When she went over to find out what happened, he was gone. There was a note written there. The note basically said, some people leave this life when they don't choose, but other people choose when they leave this world. And then it said, that is my choice, to leave when I want to leave. And then this lady started pouring out her heart to Ravi Zacharias, talking about how he had left them with children to take care of, and how she had to put the affairs in order, just how hard and difficult it was. And then she looked at him and she said, why? Why has this happened? And he looked back at her and he said, you know, I just met you. I can't say why this has happened. I don't know your husband. I didn't know him. I don't know. But he said, this one thing I'll tell you. For some people, despair is not a moment in time. For some people, despair is a way of life. Let me ask you something tonight. Those 3,000 people who killed themselves today, does it matter? The 1 million people who killed themselves this year, does it matter? Oh, sure, I know you'll tell me, yes, it matters. Their friends and family will grieve for them, and they'll be sad, and they'll be sorrowful. And I understand all of that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying from the big picture, from the grand scheme of things, from the perspective of ultimate reality, does it really matter? You know, if you've ever had a younger brother or sister, sometimes you'll know they'll make a creation out of plasticine or Play-Doh or Lego or whatever it might be. And they might have spent 15 minutes building it. But after they're done, they're so proud of what they've done. I mean, this is better than the Mona Lisa. They couldn't be more proud. And then they might turn away for a second, and then their even younger brother or sister comes over, and in 3 seconds they destroy the whole thing. And then when this older sibling turns around and sees what's happened, they're devastated. Their world is over. They start bawling their eyes out. As far as they're concerned, there's no more reason to keep on living. I mean, we can step back from this and we can say, yeah, they're upset. Yeah, they think it really matters. But from the bigger picture, it doesn't really matter that much. It seems to matter a lot at that moment. But it really doesn't matter as much as they think it does. And that's what I'm talking about tonight. That's what I'm talking about in terms of those 3,000 people who take their lives today. From the grand scheme of things, not just from our perspective, from their friends and family perspective, but from the grand scheme of things, from the perspective of ultimate reality, does it really matter? Scientists say that our sun right now is in a certain phase called the main sequence. And as a result, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's also getting hotter. 4 billion years from now, it's going to get so hot that all the oceans will evaporate and the crust will melt. All life on Earth will die. 5 billion years from now, the sun will exit the main sequence and begin a phase known as a red giant. And as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, 7 billion years from now, it will be so big that it will most likely consume the entire Earth. And then anybody that was alive on this planet, somehow, some way, any life form that was left over, will certainly be gone. And when that happens, all memory of you, of your friends, of Canada, of Western civilization, of the thousands of years of human existence, all of that will be gone. It'll be as if nothing ever happened. Everything you ever cared about, everybody you ever loved, everybody you ever were nice to, everything that mattered to you, all of that will be gone. Not just for you, but for everybody you ever cared about. All of that will be as if it never even happened. Every king that marched with his armies, every president that ever lived, every decision they ever made, every soldier that sacrificed themselves for their comrades, every loving couple that expressed their love for each other, every kind act done for another person, all of that will be as if nothing even happened. None of that will matter one little bit. Now, I know some of you are thinking, Peter, you're so pessimistic. That's not how it's going to end. You're thinking, look, science, technology. If in a few hundred years we've come so far, what are we going to do in a few billion years? We're not going to sit around and die. No, we're going to get in our spaceships. We're going to blast off. We're going to colonize other planets. I mean, Jedi Knights are going to be roaming through the galaxy. The USS Enterprise is going to be boldly going where no one has gone before. We're not going to sit around and die. If you were to say that, I would say, yeah, you're probably right. I think that's pretty likely to happen. The problem is the story of our existence doesn't end there. Scientists say 100 trillion years from now, all of the stars are going to burn out and no new stars are going to form. And after these stars burn out, there will be stellar remnants that will eventually coalesce together in black holes. All these black holes will eventually coalesce together into supermassive black holes. And then thanks to Hawking radiation, all of these supermassive black holes will eventually evaporate themselves. And the whole universe will consist of nothing but tiny subatomic particles separated by distances that are bigger than mind can even conceive of. The universe will reach maximum entropy, heat death. And there will be no life anywhere, in any way, shape, or form. And then all those intergalactic federations, all of those colonies, all of the extraterrestrial life, all of that will be gone. And it will be as if nothing ever even happened. We might think it matters right now, but from the grand scheme of things, tell me, does it matter whether you live or whether you die? Whether you die tonight or you live to an old age? Whether all your friends live or die? Does it matter how you live your life? Steven Weinberg, who won the Nobel Prize in Physics, after many decades of scientific research, he said this: the more the universe seems comprehensible, the more it also seems pointless. Way back in the 17th century, Blaise Pascal summed up the human predicament in this way. He said, I see the terrifying immensity of the universe which surrounds me, and find myself limited to one corner of this vast expanse, without knowing why I am set down here rather than elsewhere, nor why the brief period appointed for my life is assigned to me at this moment rather than another in all the eternity that has gone before and will come after. On all sides I behold nothing but infinity, in which I am a mere atom, a mere passing shadow that returns no more. All I know is that I must soon die, but what I understand least of all is this very death, which I cannot escape. What are we here for? What is this all about? Is all of this just one big accident that will end in a heat death? Or is there anything else to it? If it's all one big accident, does anything really matter? Is the only reason you think it matters because it's in your imagination, like the little child that thinks their little Play-Doh thing matters so much? There's a movie, Lord of the Rings. Epic movie. I love it. I hope you do too. If you don't, I don't know if we can be friends. Okay, I shouldn't say that. Great story. If you don't know the story, you should. But it's a story of a ring of great power. One ring to rule them all. It's a story of Frodo Baggins, his friend Samwise Gamgee, and a whole group, including a wizard, who have to go to Mordor and destroy this ring so it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. And along the way, they have all kinds of adventures and trials and tribulations. The ring that Frodo must bear weighs heavily on him. And there's one scene at the end of the second movie, at the end of the second book, where Frodo holds up the ring, and the forces of darkness almost get it. But at the last minute, his trusted friend Sam comes running in and tackles him and saves the day at the last moment. Fantastic scene. And as they're lying there, Frodo looks at Sam and he basically is in despair. He's saying, I can't go on. And Sam tells him why they have to go on. And he explains, and in the end, he says, the reason they have to go on is because there's some good in this world, and it's worth fighting for. Tell me something, is that just in the movies? Is there any real good in this world? Is there any real evil? Or is it all just in our imaginations? Richard Dawkins, one of the most famous atheists in the world, past president of Oxford University, once said this: in a universe of electrons and selfish genes, blind physical forces, and genetic replication, some people are going to get hurt, other people are going to get lucky, and you won't find any rhyme or reason in it, nor any justice. Then he says this: the universe that we observe has precisely the properties that we should expect if there is at bottom no design, no purpose, no evil, no good. Nothing but pitiless indifference. Richard Dawkins gets it exactly right. If and only if his worldview is correct. As an atheist, he's saying exactly what follows from his worldview. But if Richard Dawkins is wrong about this, and atheism is not true, and there is a real God that exists, then that changes everything. Because that means this universe is infused with meaning. It means we are not here by accident. It means we were created for a purpose. That means that good and evil are real, and it's not just in your imagination. It changes everything. And then the only thing in life that really matters, the only thing, is whether you are living for the purpose that you were created for. You might think other things matter. It's garbage. The only thing that matters is whether you are living for the reason you were created for. And if this God is the Christian God, then one of the most important things in your life is that you love the people around you because they are made in God's image. But even more important than that, is that you love God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your mind, and with all of your strength. What does that mean to love God? If you love someone, you care about what they care about. What the biblical God cares about, probably more than anything else, is that we give him the worship that he deserves. When we fail to do that, we are doing something very wrong. And so often we don't understand how wrong it is. Let me share with you two moral principles to explain this point. The first moral principle says that thanks, praise, and honor should be given where it's due. What do I mean by that? Well, if someone buys you a cup of coffee, it's right and appropriate to thank them. If you don't thank them, you're wronging them. Might be a small wrong, but you are still wronging them. If someone deserves thanks, they should be given what they are due. Praise. People also deserve praise. If you go to a concert and someone is singing beautifully there, just beautifully, it is right and appropriate for the audience to express their praise at the end by applauding. If everybody sits on their hands and refuses to do that, they are wronging the singer because the singer deserves that. Thanks should be given where it's due. Praise should be given where it's due. And honor or respect should be given where it's due. If you go to a class, the professor is the front, you should respect or honor that professor appropriately. Your parents deserve a certain degree of respect or honor. If you meet the leader of a nation, the leader of Canada, you should give them the appropriate amount of respect and honor. When you do not do that, you are wronging them because that is what they deserve. So the first moral principle is that thanks, praise, and honor should be given where it's due. The second moral principle is that the seriousness of a wrong is dependent not just on the act done, but the type of being that it's done against. So for example, someone kills a mosquito or bacteria or maybe a dangerous E. coli or dangerous virus, Ebola, not E. coli, Ebola. That's not a bad thing. Most people would say that's a good thing, right? Now, what happens if you kill a horse or a dog? Is that a good thing? Well, most people won't say it's a good thing. But it's not a bad thing the way killing an innocent human being is a bad thing. So what do we have here? We have the same act done, but whether it's good or bad or how bad it is dependent on the type of being it's done against. That's the second moral principle. Whether something is good or bad or how bad it is dependent on the type of being it's done against. So now we have two moral principles. Let's apply both of these to God. God is not someone who just buys us a cup of coffee. God is the ultimate source of every good thing we deserve. And as such, he deserves our highest thanks. God is not just a fantastic singer at a concert. He is the most fantastic being in all of existence, and as such, he deserves the highest praise. He's not just the leader of a classroom or a university or a nation. He's the leader of every created being, and as such, he deserves the highest honor, the highest respect. God deserves our highest thanks, our highest praise, and our highest honor. In other words, I would think it's safe to say he deserves our worship. Now, how wrong is this when we fail to give him that worship? Think of the second moral principle. The more valuable a being is, human beings are more valuable than dogs, dogs are more valuable than mosquitoes. The more valuable a being it is, the more wrong it is when we fail to treat them appropriately. God is not a being of finite value. God is a being of infinite value. And as such, a wrong against this God is an infinite wrong. When we fail to worship God, I believe we are committing an infinite wrong. It means our failure to worship God as he deserves to fulfill the purpose we were created for makes us more horrible, more wrong than we can possibly imagine. Now, some people hear this and they'll think, well, you're talking about religion here. And, who really knows when it comes to religion? Who really knows what's right or wrong? There's all these different religions. All of them say you should do their thing and you should worship their God, not this God. How is anyone supposed to know? So a lot of Canadians will just say, look, I'm not against any religion. I'm not an atheist, but I don't know that this religion is true, so I'm just neutral. A lot of Canadians don't care, but if you press them, they would probably say, look, somehow they would say, I'm just kind of neutral about this whole thing. But that is the one thing no one can be. No one can be neutral because everybody lives their life a particular way. And the way you live your life shows what you have decided. There's some things in life you can be neutral about. If you take an astronomy class here or something like that, and the professor talks about some distant galaxy, and the professor says, scientists are divided about whether this galaxy exists, and here's some arguments for and against, you can be neutral about that because it doesn't affect the way you live your life. So you can be legitimately undecided. But there's other things in life you cannot be undecided about. For example, imagine this situation. Imagine if I asked a girl to marry me. I've never done that before, but hopefully one day. And when it happens, I'm sure it's going to be a very special occasion. I mean, I'm going to be sweating. I'm going to be excited. It's going to be a ring with a huge rock on it. And I don't know if she's going to know. She's probably going to be surprised. But she'll probably know it's coming because you don't want to surprise a girl too much, right? But, you know, like you wanted to make sure she's going to say yes, right? So, you know, anyway, it's going to be really exciting. Very romantic occasion, somewhere in a parking lot. No, not in a parking lot. Somewhere really good. And I'm gonna get down on one knee because I've heard, girls, that's what you like. It's rumor has it, word on the street. So I'll be down on one knee, look up in her eyes, and I'll say, I don't know her name yet, but I'll say, so and so, but her real name. I'll say, will you marry me? Now imagine this situation. Imagine if she looks back at me. She says, maybe. I'm thinking, maybe. What on earth? This is not the way I planned it. So I look at her, I'm like, what do you mean maybe? She's like, well, I'm not saying no. I'm just not ready to say yes. I'm like undecided. I'm like, we kind of discussed this already. Like, you know, I want to get angry, but I probably shouldn't get angry, right? So I'm like, well, do you need some time to think about it? She's like, yeah, I just need some time to think about it. Like, just give me a little more time. So I'm like, okay. I mean, I love her so much. I can give her a week. We agree in a week to think about it. Okay. She hasn't said no. It's still good, right? Week later, I come back, romantic setting again. Will you marry me? She looks at me. She's, I'm just neutral about this. I don't know. I'm just undecided. I'm like, you had a week to think about it, girl. Like, make up your mind. No, I shouldn't do that. Probably want to at this point. She says she needs another month to think about it. Okay. Not too happy about this, but I'm going to, you know, I love her a lot, so wait another month. Come back, ask her again, will you marry me? I'm just undecided. I'm not saying no, I'm just not saying yes. Okay, well, we wait 6 months. I come back, I ask her again, will you marry me? I can't say yes, can't say no, undecided. I wait a year, she's still undecided. I wait 5 years, 10 years. On her deathbed, she's old lady now, she's dying. Will you marry me? I just haven't decided yet, I'm sorry. Now let me ask you something. Is she really undecided? Is she really neutral? The answer is clearly no. She can say whatever she wants. She has shown by her life what her answer is. Can she think about it for a week? Yeah, sure. Can she think about it for a month? At some point in time, if she doesn't say yes, and she doesn't walk down the aisle and live with me as husband and wife, her answer is no. She just cannot be undecided. She cannot be neutral about that. Because she will show her answer by the way she lives her life. The same thing is true between you and God. If the Christian God is real, he deserves your worship. And you will either live your life giving that worship or you will not. But there is no middle ground. Every single person decides because of the way they live their life. And if it's true that God exists and he created you for this purpose, then nothing in life matters more. And if you're not living your life that way, you need to repent of the way you're living your life, be made right in the only way that God has made possible through the death of his son, Jesus. There is no neutrality. There is no middle ground on this issue. If God does not exist, then nothing in life matters. You can pretend it does, but you can also pretend Santa Claus is real because it makes you feel good. That's all you're doing. You're pretending because it makes you feel good. But if God does exist, then nothing in your life matters more than whether you're living for the purpose that he created you. There's a band called Fun that sings a song called Some Nights. And there's a few lines in that song. It says, but I still wake up, I still see your ghost. Oh Lord, I'm still not sure what I stand for. What do I stand for? What do I stand for? Most nights, I don't know. What do you stand for? What is your life about? Are you just filling up the time until you die, pretending that things matter? Or are you living for what really matters? Do you care about what is the most important thing in life? Is there anything you're willing to die for? Because if God exists, he is worth dying for. What are you living your life for? You have one life to live. Make it count.
Some nights I wish that my lips could build a castle. Some nights I wish they just fall off. But I still wake up